I'd like to welcome Bricks, Plates, Tiles to today's episode of Crossing the Streams. Welcome, BPT. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Doing great. Great to be on. Great to see everyone. Yeah, I'm really excited to chat and hang out, and yeah, it's gonna be great.
Definitely. I want to thank you for being here for this episode. I'm glad to have you on. And BPT, if you were to describe your channel to anyone that's unfamiliar with Bricks, Plates, Tiles, how would you describe it to someone brand new?
Um, yeah, I'd say we're just pretty chill, relaxed Lego stream, primarily focusing on Lego, but do other sorts of things, game wise, Twitch related, and stuff like that. But um, just a late. I kind of take the late night slots, so it's like a pretty relaxed, just chill place to end your evening, end your night, hang out, watch some Lego building, and get some good chats in, listen to some good music, and yeah, just really chill place to hang. I wish I had more of like a kind of significant mission statement here, but it's kind of like that's kind of where I'm at. It's just like turn the stream on and hang out with whoever comes in and have a good time and just chill.
And it never has to be a significant mission statement, but I appreciate that. I mean, cool late night hangout. You'll get some Lego. Sometimes you play games too. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I actually started streaming games a couple years ago on another stream that I had, Crag Squad, which was just like a stream that I had for like some friends of mine. It was kind of like a personal stream. It was just kind of streaming games and really like I had built a new computer, so I was like really excited to like play a bunch of games and I was able to stream. So I was able to get through a lot of games that I had kind of on my game backlog and kind of got into Twitch. Yeah, just kind of through gaming at first.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been a nice it, on BPT. It's nice to take a little break sometimes from focusing so much on brick building and kind of step away and chill with some games or maybe focus on some other types of crafts and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not necessarily like a variety streamer. I'd say I primarily would be focusing on brick building on
Hmm.
BPT, but having a little bit of experience doing like some gaming streams and how that works and stuff like that. It's kind of easy to transition back and forth between the two, and it is nice to kind of break it up a little bit. And
Hmm.
um, I feel like the people that hang out in my channel, like I kind of know a lot of people's interests, and it's not like I'm playing anything like really bizarre. Like people seem to vibe with kind of the games that we play, and I can kind of read the room in terms of taste of like games and stuff like that to just mix it up a little bit.
It's awesome. I do love the late night chill vibes, just putting together Lego, hanging out. Reminds me very much of what I enjoy doing myself on stream. So that I really love what you do. When it comes to Lego, is your history with it? How did you get into Lego and become an AFOL?
I think it's kind of like the standard AFOL millennial story. Like I was into it when I was a kid, had my dark ages, and then actually it was only recently, about a year ago, I got back into Lego and I kind of went like all in on it. It was actually the bonsai tree that came out, and one of my friends had sent me a link on it, and I think it was like a pre-release link or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I think I pre-ordered the bonsai tree, but at that time, I think it was like 2021 January. I think that set came out pretty early. But that was like when Lego was like at the lowest production and like the demand was like the highest during the
Hmm.
quarantine. So I ended up like not getting that bonsai set for like 6 months. It was crazy. But within that time, I kept getting like back order notices, and I was like, all right, I'll just buy like some other random set. And I ended up getting the NES and TV set,
Oh
like the
yeah.
classic NES TV. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I put it together. I was really excited about it. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like the amount Lego has like evolved since I had remembered it as a kid was like really amazing. And kind of seeing the build techniques and the design and like the final products and how far it really has progressed over the last 15, 20 years since the last time I've really built it or had any experience with it was really amazing. So it really that really hooked me. It was a great COVID hobby. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I think the fact of building Lego obviously led down. I started with some discords with Lego and was kind of involved with some communities in those, and then eventually kind of got into the Twitch and not so much the YouTube scene, but more of the Twitch scene for Lego and getting more involved with those communities. And it's kind of how it evolved to where it is today, pretty much.
Yeah. And then one day you just decided, like, was there just one day where you're like, "Hey, I should just do this on stream?"
I was thinking about streaming because I had previously streamed before, and I was still streaming on my other stream around the time.
Right.
And it was kind of just like I was getting playing games. There were a couple of people hanging out. It wasn't like anything that was like growing, or not that I really wanted it to grow or anything. It was just kind of like a small personal stream.
Mhm.
Um, but it was a good opportunity on Crag Squad to kind of experiment with design and how my stream, or like how I would want to stream, like how that would feel, how it would like interact with people, like the persona on stream. Not that I have a persona or anything like that, but just like how I like behave and personalities and stuff like that on stream, and like just kind
Mhm.
of it was a good like intro crash course into like what streaming potentially could be. I was also pretty familiar with like OBS, and a lot of like the technical end of it was like I had learned a lot of that through the first stream. So that was like really helpful. And then, yeah, I didn't initially like when I first got back into Lego, I wasn't like, all right, I need to stream Lego. I was like getting into it kind of slowly and then seeing what else was out there. And I think like the discords and through some of the other communities, like some of the Lego streamers, and I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And it was also kind of a time. It was about a year ago, so there were a decent amount of brick builders, but like I know in the last 6 months or so, there's been like a crazy amount of
Mhm.
new brick builders, which is like really awesome. But it was still kind of like a pretty niche scene on Twitch. So yeah, it was kind of fun to dive into that and see like the different types of personalities, and also like IRL streaming and like just chatting and stuff like that. That was like a whole new world. I had like no idea kind of the potential and like possibilities for those types of streams.
Mhm.
Because like most people kind of Twitch brings you in for the games, and you're there to watch games, and it's very game centric. So having this like new IRL kind of streaming world was pretty interesting as well. And like kind of having Lego as your centric kind of focus that can trigger like nostalgia and like other sorts of topics and talking points and stuff like that. I thought was like a good catalyst to kind of start streaming and sharing my interest and current interests and nostalgias and reminiscing about Lego and everything else that you like to reminisce about
Yeah,
on
yeah.
stream. um I think Zach said it's you talk about three things like Lego, pop culture, and food. Whatever decades those fall into, that's kind of like the topics that mostly you talk about on the Lego stream. So yeah, it's been good to like get a good like have a good centralized topic like Lego that can trigger some of that nostalgia that can then like naturally progress like the conversations, or like how you present your stream, or like it was an interesting opportunity to kind of explore what the potential was for streaming
Yeah.
IRL and Lego and stuff like that. So
You kind of took your time getting into it, in that you noticed the hobby. It seemed like something fun that you've already done as a kid and had been into, and then rediscovering that love. And then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, there's this whole community that's already doing it. Do you remember what channels that you happened upon when you were first discovering the Twitch communities that were doing this?
I think one of the first follows was Panfrenudo.
Mm,
Maybe the second follow might have been Zach, and it was those guys that were streaming a lot. I think Nick was streaming a lot around then. I don't know if he streams much these days, but Jang I was following. I think Amish was starting around then. yeah, just kind of those guys that have been around, the OGs, and just kind of started interacting and lurking and seeing how they ran the streams and how they interacted with the chat, because that was a whole new thing too, kind of like this more direct interaction with the chat, which has been something really interesting with IRL streaming versus streaming with gaming streaming and stuff like that. So it was just like hanging out in those guys' channels and yeah, just getting to know everyone in chat and also everyone that was a streamer, and kind of it was nice seeing everyone in everyone else's chat.
Hmm.
Like you can carry kind of the conversation through multiple channels and get to know people through multiple channels, either if they're hosting their own channel or if you see them in chat hanging out. It's a good community because it's like it feels bigger than just like one streamer. It's like
Yeah.
the brick building community is like a whole kind of pool, and like no matter what stream we're in, like it's a party and we're hanging out and like we all know each other, and it doesn't feel like for some games maybe it's like certain streamers have their own communities and they're kind of isolated from other streamers from that game, but the brick building community has always felt one as a whole and
Yeah.
supportive as a whole.
The brick building community is one of the most tight knit ones I've ever seen, right? Like you said, there's
Oh yeah.
hanging out, and then you'll see maybe the same list of names because there's so many of them, but you start to see the same names. Like if you're brand new to the community, you'll perhaps stumble upon someone like a Panfrenudo or a Zach M. Rutledge, and then you start seeing a couple of the same names between those streams pop up. And then as you kind of dive deeper into brick building, you start noticing them more and more, or you start seeing offshoots where there's the same 5 to 10 names popping up. And I think that's incredible. And like you, I when I started watching brick building, I was like, "This is incredible that there's the same numbers or names numbers of names that are popping up." And for me, it was funny because I used to watch some of the originals, some of the earliest ones. Brick and Nick, Set to Build were the 2 that come to mind. And then later on, I didn't look as closely at the community, but then I started streaming it myself, and I rated AZ Pinoy at one point. And so I started watching him and I started seeing names like Amish Ace, uh, Zach M. Rutledge, right? Panfred Nudo. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And they all seem to know each other. And then I started watching their streams and then I kept seeing the same names. And never have I ever seen that tight knit group of viewers and the same streamers
Yeah,
continuously.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like smaller games and smaller communities, I feel like they're pretty isolated, and it's really like each streamer has their own community, and they're
Hmm.
not interacting with each other. Maybe some communities, yeah, there's some interaction between the community members outside the streams, but I feel like, yeah, the brick building community as a whole has been, like you said, you see the usual suspects of names,
Yeah.
and it's nice to see familiar names, and it's a nice comfy community, and it's always welcoming, and that's been great too. Like there's kind of zero toxicity, and like kind of always promoting positivity and
Hmm.
having this kind of new outlook on streaming that isn't just trying to like be a troll or like try to do it for the views or like the lulls, or trying to have a more like organic and authentic kind of experience in stream.
I definitely agree with that. The feeling is really positive in general, and I found that if you're new to the community, whether you're as just a streamer or or just a viewer, depending on which entry point you make it in as, there's a whole lot of love and support that you see, whether it's the community rallying around streamers who show up to the category and or tag actually, but showing up to the tag and streaming regularly, they tend to gain a lot of traction. Or if it's a viewer that starts surfacing in multiple brick building channels,
Yeah,
you kind of get that whole familiar or recognition once you start seeing them and welcoming them to a given channel. Since you joined the community, what has been some of the most interesting things to you since you joined it that has transpired, or rather, how it's evolved in that time?
Hmm. It's tough. Yeah, that's a good question. I think like one of the things I feel that I resonate most with this community and with streaming brick building and getting to know everyone that's either a streamer or a chatter, the regulars and stuff like that. Um, it's like having that personal connection with everyone has been like really inspiring and something that I think is you can, when you're streaming a game, you're focusing on playing the game and like performance playing the game, and everyone's kind of paying attention more to that type of content versus like your personality. So like being able to connect like with everyone more on a personal level and kind of seeing those regulars come back and continuing those relationships and chats, I feel like that's been something pretty inspiring about this experience of streaming.
What's really interesting about what we do in brick building is, in some ways, it's I think it's more difficult. This sounds funny. I think it's more difficult as a streamer, even though the community itself, I would say, is far more welcoming, far more supportive. It's it's really, if you dedicate the time to streaming into brick building as a tag, people will show up generally. But I feel like it's almost harder because even though you're building Lego and you're doing something fun, the interest that comes into your stream, or rather the interest that you generate from your stream, is far more reliant on your ability to engage and connect with the folks who are watching, right? So I almost feel like it's harder because if you no offense to those that are like, oh man, I must really suck this, but like, if people don't feel like they can connect to you and you as a person, you don't really see a lot of, growth. I don't know, or not even growth, but like returning people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's far more dependent on your ability to talk to those that are coming in. When you stream brick building, is there anything that you find to be particularly challenging about connecting with those that are watching your channel, or discussing things, different topics with them?
I think like because of the type of brick building that I do on stream, I'm not mocking, I'm not doing like heavy like stud IO kind of designing or
Yeah.
any sort of heavy designing in terms of being creative, which is kind of a shame. But like, I think Zach was saying, about being a Lego tracer where you've got the instructions and you're kind of following the instructions, and it's that process I feel like is pretty relaxing to me.
Mm.
So I feel like because it's very minimal activity in terms of creativity and problem solving from my end in terms of what I'm putting into the brick building, it is pretty easy to relate or like focus on chat and have more of just like a conversational type of chat. And like the Lego is more of the side kind of topic. Like it's something that we're working on and like we're talking about, but it's easier to have these kind of more intimate conversations with people because you are able to divide your attention a little bit because it is kind of such a for at least Lego tracing, it's like paint by numbers more or less. There is a bit of a challenge sometimes for the harder sets and like maybe like finding some bricks or nulling properly or all of the technical kind of challenges that come with putting together a Lego set. But
Mhm.
because I'm not using that brain power of like trying to solve all these technical problems with designing a Lego set and all that kind of things, it's easy to focus and give more attention to chat. And that's what I love too, because streaming games and focusing on stuff and using that type of brain power for your content and kind of focusing on that versus looking at chat as much, I feel like you're not able to make those connections. You're missing a lot of things. You're missing out on a lot of opportunities to like connect with people. And I feel like brick building is the focus of the channel, and it's obviously like the things that stem. all of the topics and trigger all of the talking points on stream. So it is a nice vessel to get everyone kind of on one focus, and then we can start dividing the attention to other people as we're building. And yeah, it's nice to not be able to, or it's nice to like be able to divide my attention that way and give people the proper amount of attention and recognition they need in stream, and that stronger connection ultimately.
It certainly makes it easier to prioritize the people that are talking to you because
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, like you said, you know, you can take that brain power that you'd ordinarily use compared to say a game streamer, right? Where they have to really use at least some level of focus on a game. You can take that and move it to chat because putting bricks together, particularly if you've got instructions in front of you, there's a minimal level of concentration required, which allows you to do more talking to those that are in your chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you build or when you stream rather, have you ever thought about just doing a just chatting stream, or do you think there's anything kind of lost if you actually take the Lego out of the equation and focus on just chatting?
I think the Lego for me is still a primary focus, and I do really enjoy building Lego and like being involved with the Lego community and talking about it, and getting people excited to talk about it. And I think like honestly, I don't know if I would have enough to offer as a just chatting stream. I do like using the Lego as a catalyst for conversation, or like even if I'm just building and people are chatting in stream and I'm just kind of like paying attention to them, but also just kind of chilling. And like it's nice to have something to focus on a little bit. If I was just chatting, I would probably not be that interesting, and probably
Right.
you know lose a lot of interest pretty quickly. But the Lego is always a nice vessel to like refocus on. And like if there's nothing going on in chat, I'll just chat to myself if there's nothing really going on in chat, and like
Yeah.
just talk through the build. And like I feel like for me it's helpful to at least have that to focus on during stream.
Yeah.
Like having the chat is really great, and like obviously keeps me occupied during stream, but having a kind of a centralized activity or focus, I think for me, at least for me personally, is probably the way for me to go for streaming. I don't know if like having just kind of a blank slate in terms of just chatting would be the best format for me.
Yeah. 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 I asked that question because I do feel like there's a lot of us who do this that uh I'm the same way as you in terms of I love to focus on the people that are in chat, love to bring up conversation with them. And although I have Lego here, I do feel like there is a lot of chatting. And I've always wondered, at what point, if you take the Lego out of the equation, how does that affect the stream or the streamer? And I've arrived at the same conclusion as you, where if I because I've thought about this, I've run some thought experiments. I haven't tried it myself, but I've thought about it and I wondered if I just took out the Lego, would it still be as effective or impactful as it's been? And actually my thought is no. My thought is just like you that I still need something to be doing, even though it is, somewhat low impact in terms of like what the stream is talking about in that moment, maybe the majority of the time. I feel like having the Lego there is just a nice thing to be doing in the moment, a nice, like you said, catalyst for conversation. You can still revert back to the set you're building or the building techniques that you're seeing in the set or anything related to it. Uh, I think you're absolutely right. So I arrived at the same place you did because I thought about that. Because a lot of the time, a lot of streamers like us effectively do a lot of talking at chat, and it's like, at what point would removing Lego make sense? And I feel the same way as you. That there's still a need to have it there.
Yeah, I feel like just for me personally, um I don't know if I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I have that type of personality to like just be someone to sit and chat with people and like have a conversation going, kind of constructive conversation going, just out
Right.
of nothing. But I feel like a lot of Lego streamers totally could. I feel like you're right, where it is the makers, crafters, and stream and just chatting stream are kind of synonymous and
Yeah.
or run in kind of parallel paths where it's something with makers and crafters, you may not be on camera all the time, but you do have to engage with chat more than you would playing a game or kind of something with a more centralized, focus. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like for me personally, I don't know if I'd be able to transition into like a just chatting stream.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is a good streaming. The IRL stream has definitely gotten me a lot more comfortable with talking on camera and just like talking to random strangers and
Yeah.
um, just kind of giving me a little more, confidence in terms of interacting with people and socializing and stuff like that. So it
Yeah.
does help in terms of keeping you sharp with chatting and stuff like that. So I could see people easily transitioning into kind of a just chatting like atmosphere. But at least
Yeah.
for me, I think it needs to have some sort of centralized topic. I don't think myself is interesting enough to be like, I'm the stream, like come watch me. Like we're just
Right.
gonna talk about random stuff. But like but some people that's their brand and that's totally what they do. And like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are very successful with that. And nothing wrong with that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Just yeah, it's not something that I've really kind of aspired to in terms of content creation or streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that's really insightful for you to make that point of we can easily say that's the focus of the stream, right? We can easily say, "Oh, here's my set that I'm building. Check out this set and I'm just going to chat at you." And I think that's actually a really cool way to look at it because I think if you were to present that to any streamer, especially those who are fairly new to the whole thing, it seems scary, maybe a little daunting, where it's like, "Oh yeah, the camera's on you. Now just talk at the camera and the people who are watching you go." Right? And that is some scary stuff. That is like rid-
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Zach M. Rutledge made a point in chat, says I'd watch some editing or motion graphic works from BPT. I'm gonna take a slight detour here because I know that I mentioned this to you before we started broadcasting. I said that I love the visuals that you do, whether it's on your
Sure.
stream or on socials for some of the charity work that we've seen in the brick building community. I just want to say, man, that I love a lot of the stuff that you've done, whether it be the motion
Thank you.
graphics, or just the graphic design work that I've seen you do. If you don't mind talking a little bit about that, like how did you get so good at it? Is this something that you do by day, or how did you get
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. Um, I guess it started like in high school. Downloaded like some cracked version of Photoshop and started like messing around with that. And actually, my high school offered graphic design,
Yeah,
which was kind of like interesting at the time. So I was taking what they had to offer, which was pretty basic, but also like introduced me to like digital art, like it was really a good introduction to like what you could do with a computer, like how you could utilize technology to like create art and like cool art, no, not cool art, but like interesting art and like progressive art and stuff that would like be significant for like the future, whatever. But like um I think the intersection of like having that interest in technology and then having like interest in art, graphic design was like a really good combination, like a really good kind of platform and medium for that because there's some technical aspects to it, but also there's a lot of artistic aspects to it, and there's a lot of design aspects to it. Starting out in high school, I really was into graphic design, and I did a lot of like MySpace graphic design pages, like a lot of local, like all my friends were in like punk bands and like hardcore bands, and like I would make like stupid MySpace banners and like flyers and stuff, and it was great. And like That's kind of where I started really enjoying doing design and stuff like that. And I did go to design school. I went to Parsons in New York City, and my major was actually called design and technology, and it was like this kind of experimental curriculum on like also like my school Parsons. It's it's known for a pretty progressive and like experimental curriculum and like theology on education, stuff like that. So they're throwing in you into the deep end on a lot of weird stuff, like conceptually, and it was cool. And from there, like the whole thing of my major, which was design and technology, was like obviously kind of how you marry design and technology, how they affect each other, and like how emerging technologies and like at the time it was like mobile app design was really big when I was in college. So it was like the end of like the Flash era. I remember learning a little bit of like action scripts, and this is pretty technical, but like
Yeah, yeah.
like Flash stuff for like web design, and like a lot web design was really popular at the time, but then it was shifting into mobile design, and like AR and VR was getting popular, and actually streaming was kind of getting like popular because Justin TV was kind of popping up around then, and
Mhm, mhm.
that other Ustream was that
Yep,
what it was.
yep.
Um, they were getting popular around the time, so this whole shift of like purely web design into mobile design was kind of like my era of when I went to college, and like those emerging technologies, kind of the mobile platforms and AR and VR and more of the kind of interactive type of design and technology. That's what we focused on a lot, and it had a lot of influence on like how I thought about design and like the type of design I was into, and like how to utilize what I like to do in design and like apply it to these types of mediums and stuff like that. So that was, art school was great.
Yeah.
I can say a lot of bad things about art school, but for the most part, I I enjoyed it. Um, but yeah, that like program was a really interesting program to like help kind of find my footing in what I like to do in terms of digital art and digital media. And like I got into motion graphics in college too. I thought I was going to be like a motion graphics artist when I graduated, but that kind of like fizzled out. But that was also an interesting segue into how I got into editing and being a video editor. Like I was
Mm,
working a lot with motion graphics artists, but then also working a lot with like editors and like post production people, and kind of like shifted my interest that way. So it's been like a kind of pretty broad umbrella of design, and both 2D and 3, or not really much 3D, but 2D design, motion graphics, animation, like editorial, like post production, like everything that involves digital media. I was like really involved in
mm,
college, and I feel like I always, was really interested in graphic design, but also how to apply that to whatever medium, like either MySpace or Instagram or YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, whatever.
mhm.
Um, just how to utilize those platforms to like kind of showcase your design in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like for Twitch, it's a really great platform to experiment with different types of design, and like not only like visual design, but like components to your channel, and like how your personality and what you're streaming like reflects in your visual design, and like how all of that kind of comes together to like create a nice balance. I feel like that has really been something that like I guess I have been pretty passionate about in terms of pursuing things in my spare time. Like I do work in digital media. I'm like an editor and stuff like that, but I
Mhm.
do like to spend a lot of my free time like being immersed in kind of these new technologies. And I feel like Twitch and streaming and stuff like that is yeah, a really great platform showcase your personality through design and stuff like that. And I feel like people, obviously people are reacting to it well, and I'm really glad
Yeah.
that you can appreciate like my design skills and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
have a lot
man.
of student debt, so I'm glad all my student loans are going to good use.
Yeah.
Um, art school is not cheap,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's been nice because now with Twitch and like the ease of like going live on like Twitch or YouTube and like these kinds of technologies that are like so instantaneous now. It's kind of come full circle where like in college that was kind of like a wishful future, like potentially what if this happened and that'd be cool. Um and now it's kind of like coming to fruition, so it's like it's fun to kind of go back and explore and see what works for you, like putting together your stream, whether it be like overlays or like how you brand your stream or like any sort of visual components that go into the stream. It's been a lot of fun to really jump back into that.
Yeah.
And because I was focused a lot on post production for a long time, like editing and like motion graphics and basically everything that goes into like a post production job. Like I was working at a production studio and I was working a lot, and then I was like I'm a freelancer now, so jump around a lot of different studios, and that's kind of like my day focus. But it's nice because like I just worked with EA for some like skate promos. That was
Yeah.
kind of fun. So like having the opportunity to do jobs that have these creative environments and like working in those studios is a really interesting creative environment, and like clients are always really interesting and creative, not always, but um interesting. I don't know about so creative, but being being kind of involved and immersed in that environment daily helps keep the creativity juices flowing a little bit. And one thing I would say about like working remotely, I know we were talking about this a little earlier off stream, but working remotely, it's been tough, I'd say, because being in those environments and physically being in those studios was like you would kind of feed off of the energy of different, because there'd be other freelancers, it'd be like creative directors and clients and producers, and like kind of having all of those people physically in the same office collaborating, feeding off each other's energy. Like I sat next to like some like 3D animator for a while, and you'd meet all these random people and like just see what they're up to and like what their interests are and how they approach work and stuff like that has been something that I guess I've been missing out in terms of the remote work.
Hmm.
But I feel that still being involved in that industry is it's been good to like keep my kind of creative juices flowing when I need to think about stuff for stream and stuff like that, and
Right.
utilize those skills for that kind of platform. But
I think that's incredible. That's an incredible story, and how you use those skills that you've picked up and apply them to your channel is really fascinating. And I can tell that when I see a lot of the things that you put on your Twitch channel, that you think about that stuff and that you're always playing with it or you're doing something to it. One of my favorite things that you've done, which is actually more apparent when you're not live, but is your clip for your shout outs. Because
oh
uh
yeah, yeah,
for those that don't know how this works, there's these widgets out there. When you shout out another streamer, it pulls up a clip of their channel to kind of help give you an idea of what that streamer does. And one of the funniest and actually just I think it's genius things that I've seen is that in your clips is actually you doing motion graphics, introducing yourself for those people that might see this clip in a shout out. So it's like, hey, it's your, like it says something like, it's your boy BPT, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it. I think that is great. And I think that that is just testament to your creativity and your ability to take something like that and then apply it in a way that is absolutely unique, and I love it. I think it's fantastic, and I think that really speaks to you as a person who streams and what you think about. So I just how did that come about?
I think it was just one of those things where I was like, I've been seeing these shout out videos, and the ones that I had were like completely random clips of me just like looking into the camera or like whatever. I
Yeah,
know some people like that may have a community that's like clipping a lot and stuff like that. It totally can be useful to like get little snippets of the channel when they're being shouted out. But I was like, I was being shouted out, and I was like, oh, these clips are like super lame. It's just like me looking at the camera, or like not doing anything interesting or whatever. So I was like, yeah, let's try to like inject some branding and seeing what we'll see what we can do with this widget externally you know, from our stream, and seeing how we can kind of implement this in other streams, like, and how we can solve, like, not really solve, but like try to inject a little more personality into the brand. And I feel like for Bricks Plates Tiles, it's been a really interesting journey in terms of like finding the brand's journey. Not really that it's a brand, but like making decisions in terms of how I want to present it, and like overall, like the overall aesthetic, and kind of design choices that I choose, and how that kind of reflects what I do on stream, and like my personality and stuff like that. So I feel like that was like an interesting opportunity to be like, oh, you can kind of think outside the box a little bit, and utilize these technologies and these kind of weird platforms, and kind of manipulate them a little bit to give your stream a little more personality. Not to say I'm trying to like promote my stream like crazy, but like it's something that you know another opportunity just to like see what we could do on the platform, and kind of works. I
yeah,
think it's finding stuff like that. I feel like is always interesting. Like the chat interactions, and like the drop game I find fascinating, and things like that where you're having a direct interaction with the chat. It affects like your stream, and kind of how people act and react on your stream. And I feel like that's been kind of a fascinating thing to explore with the IRL streaming path, because you
yeah,
do kind of need to think of like not necessarily like gimmicks, but you need to like think of more engagement than you would if you're just watching a game.
right,
Like the Lego is interesting. Lego's always interesting. Sure, I love like watching people put together Lego and talk about it and stuff like that. But you're right. There is a bit of a just chatting element to it, where you are directly engaging a lot with more of the chat than you would be like playing a game. So
mhm,
you need to figure out ways to keep them more engaged when you're not being engaging yourself. But like
yeah,
I feel like that adds, some more personality to the streams as well. Like the people that do the Pokemon games, that's fun. Or like all these little widgets people are finding to like interact with chat, but add a little more personality to their chat or to their stream individually, I think has been really interesting.
yeah,
And seeing all the different ways that people approach that, because there's so many different brick building streamers, and everyone kind of has like a different perspective on how they want to stream and how they interact with chat. And it's interesting to see everyone's outlook, and kind of how they solve these different problems of how they're conducting themselves and interacting, and stuff like that on chat.
yeah,
And I think as far as the live act or the IRL and brick building streams, that has been something that's been like pretty inspiring. And like I didn't see much of that like in other gaming communities. It was focusing, maybe there's like some weird like overlay jump scares or something, but as far as like direct interaction, it was like totally lacking. And I feel like the Lego community, really has that going for it, and it's really interesting. It makes it great to be a part of.
I completely agree. I really believe that the community has tried to figure out all the different ways you can be more engaging or stand out from other people in the community. I think what we do puts us in a unique position compared to other categories and tags, or types of
Yeah.
content on Twitch. And I like how you just pointed out that we collectively are trying to kind of solve for this problem. And like you said, it's not really so much a gimmick, so much as like, how do I put my own spin on the content or on your stay when you're watching this channel?
Mm.
Are there any kind of things that really stand out to you, or things that you really enjoy when you see other streams, or things that you really like about your own stream that you do that really kind of stands out?
I think like seeing how other people are utilizing these tools, and I think a lot of people have kind of like pretty much echoed this same sentiment, but like observing and seeing how other streamers are using those tools and then trying to translate into how that works for you and how that works for your stream and how that works for your chat. um I think that's really important. I think that's something that like that has been, along with kind of everything else going into IRL, like not knowing anything about IRL streaming, like observing those types of things have been really interesting and inspiring, because it's like something I'd never had thought of about on Twitch, or like that Twitch could possibly offer like these types of interactions and stuff like that. So like things specifically, I'm not really I'm not really sure like specifically what I can think of, but I'd say just in general, like yeah, like seeing how people are using those tools, not only just the widgets and like the chat interactions, but like how people do like redeems and like the different types of direct interaction people offer with their chat has
Mhm.
always been really interesting to see among the brick building community, and like the just chatting and art and music. I've been watching a lot of music streams lately,
Mm.
and they're really interesting too to interact with. Yeah, just kind of seeing how everyone conducts themselves and like seeing what works for them, and then just yeah, just trying to translate it to what works for me. I think like that shout out video I think is something that works. I think it's really interesting. um I think like I did kind of do a little bit of like branding kind of brainstorming before I kind of put the channel together, in terms of like design exploration and like aesthetic and like how I just wanted things to flow, and logos and like colors and all that kind of stuff. So it was interesting to try to apply that branding of my channel to these types of solves for, channel redemptions or follower overlays or any type of interaction that you see with chat. Like I feel like that's always interesting, and a lot of art streams do it really well too, because they're like, obviously very good at art and illustration and design and stuff like that, and implementing all of their work and trying to like do all that within their channel has that's always really interesting to see too, getting the brand to work for you in your channel. And yeah, I think the brand has also been, evolving, constantly evolving. I feel like that's another fun thing about Twitch is like you can take some chances with your design, and you know see what works and what doesn't, and see what people react to and what they don't react to, and you're not really bound by like any sort of client expectations or like a budget or any, at least for my level of streaming and stuff like that. So yeah, just being able to like kind of explore
Yeah.
design wise and seeing what works. And I'm glad like my sense of kind of aesthetic and design has been relatively pleasing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's always been a nice kind of blank canvas to figure out how all of this crazy digital media can kind of translate into something that that represents you on stream and stuff like that.
I think that's really well said and well spoken. When you think about the brand, or you think about the channel and how you present it, what would you tell someone who is struggling with that or trying to figure that out for their own Twitch channel?
I would say you start with what you like, and what you feel comfortable with, and like there's so many facets into like where you could potentially be struggling with something like that. But yeah, I would say like not try to like jump into the deep end of it. Just try to organically see what works for you, organically
Mhm.
kind of grow and evolve. And maybe it is something visual where like maybe you could have like a a more snappy logo, or like try to like make your elements a little more cohesive in terms of like representing you as a brand. I feel like, at least for the brick building and the IRL streaming, like your personality is very important to the stream and is obviously very like representative of your brand and vice versa. So I feel like trying to connect those two things is really important. Where trying to like have your stream represent, how you act and like your personality and stuff like that, and not, obviously not trying to force it, but seeing what works for you and like kind of finding that balance. But yeah, I would say don't try to force it. Obviously, there's a lot of technical aspects that go into streaming and like having all of these elements work cohesively and like smoothly. And I know a lot of people kind of can get stuck on the technical aspect of it, which is, that's just unfortunate. Not unfortunate, but it's like that's just something I feel like they could learn on their own. Or obviously, I like to help people out technically too, and everyone in the community is super supportive in terms of like technical help and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's a hurdle that is pretty easily obtainable if you just want to sit down and kind of learn that a little bit. But as far as struggling with your brand and stuff like that, I feel like, yeah, I feel like you just gotta not force it, feel what works for you, and start simple. If you're not a designer, look at other streamers that maybe like, you know, I like to look at streamers that are kind of in the same size as our streams. Like,
Hmm.
I follow a couple streamers that are really big, and like I don't really interact with chat and stuff like that, but like I really like the streams that are kind of comparable to, like your personal stream, or kind of like the general community size that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Because then you can get a sense of like how they're dealing with, chat, and like how they always seem a little more authentic and organic. They're not putting on like a show for their sponsors or for like, their
Right.
millions of subscribers or whatever. So yeah, just kind of observing other streamers and kind of seeing what what you like, what you don't like. Some people some people just don't gel with certain personalities. It's totally fine. And like, yeah, not
Yeah.
trying to rush it or force it, just trying to like have an organic kind of growth.
Right. Look to others for inspiration.
Definitely
S-
looking to others for inspiration, and not only on Twitch. Like, what inspires you? Like, what kind of music do you listen to? What kind of movies and art and like literature, and like what are you involved with outside of streaming? Like, I feel like all those things can help, or you can like incorporate all of those things
mhm.
to kind of project your personality on stream. And looking for inspiration outside of Twitch, I think is also important.
Oh yeah. It's where some of the best ideas come from. Is just looking around you out in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, you start to get tunnel vision, like when you're trying to focus on being inspired by one thing. It's like I
Hmm.
want to look up like how like vaporwave graphics look, and then you're just like you're very tunnel vision on one thing, and you got to step away and kind of like have some fresh eyes, and kind of get inspiration from other things besides Twitch. I think is really
Yeah.
important.
Zach M. Rutledge in chat asks, "Have you ever considered design commissions for streamers?"
I have not, honestly, because I don't think I'm strong enough of a designer. Like, I wouldn't offer myself as a freelance graphic designer, because
Yeah.
I don't really have like that professional experience in terms of like, I mean, I probably could, but I don't feel comfortable offering those services like as a professional.
Hmm.
I do like, I like the freedom of Twitch, where helping people out with little graphics and stuff like that has been fun, because there's been a lot less pressure than like doing client work and stuff like that. And like, not to say that like working with other streamers to help build their brand would be difficult or stressful, but you have to go through like the kind of professional workflow, um, kind of routine with them. Like maybe there's like revisions, or like, you know,
Right.
having like calls and scheduling meetings, and kind of having it, if it's something that would be my full time job, and I was like financially stable doing it, then totally, absolutely. But I think right now for where I'm at, like I definitely have consulted with people in terms of like trying to find inspiration and like a kind of cohesive visual style. But as far as like pumping out the assets and stuff like that, it's not really in my wheelhouse, but
Mhm.
it's something that, I probably could do. I feel like there's a level of polish to a lot of the like stuff that's offered on Fiverr and like some of these like kind of free uh, layout sites and stuff like that. There's a lot of good work out there, and like
Right.
honestly, like I don't have that skill to adapt in terms of like if someone wants a very specific style, I may not be able to like produce that work because I like a certain type of style, and like if someone and I've had this happen like professionally when I did work as a graphic designer. I did struggle when like people wanted certain styles that were like out of my kind of wheelhouse. And yeah, that's something I feel like as a professional you need to cover. Like you like as an editor, I can edit different types of different genres and like comedy and action and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like for a designer or a professional designer, you need to be pretty multifaceted. And as at least for me, I'm not at that skill level. So
Yeah.
it's something that I did probably like when I was in college, that was pretty much the path I was taking was like UI design and like
Right.
mobile app design, stuff like that, like interface design. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think that's something that has helped me carry into the Twitch design world and that, you know, since I was really immersed in that back in college, it really has helped and influenced what I'm doing now with the stream. But yeah, as far as being commissioned, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's all good. It's good to know where you stand on that, and it's actually really nice to hear kind of, that awareness, that awareness of where you're at and being able to say, I don't feel comfortable or I do feel comfortable or, I
Yeah.
think I think that's completely realistic. I would say though, as someone who sees some of the work that you do, I think it's incredible. And so I'm sure that's why
Oh, thank you.
folks like
Thank you.
myself and Zach are were wondering. I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I know Zach was talking about editing and motion graphics on stream earlier. Back in my old stream, Crack Squad, I actually did do a lot of editing because I primarily focused on this game called Skater XL, which is
Mm.
like a skateboarding simulator. It's a really small community. It was kind of weird and toxic, and there's a lot of drama. But um, like, no offense to any Skater XL players that are watching right now, but um, that's where I started. That's kind of the community I started, and that community is interesting because it lives outside of Twitch as well. There's lots of discords, and the modding community is huge for that game. So everyone keeps in touch with each other over Discord. There's all sorts of like fake skate teams where there's like a fake skate brand. They have
Oh
a
yeah, yeah.
team. They like shoot videos. They like edit the
Wow.
videos. They have premieres for the videos. It's like a whole thing. It's crazy.
Wow.
um, so it was an interesting kind of community building like experience because of all of this interaction outside of the actual game, like
Yeah.
building these fake skate brands and stuff like that. So I actually did used to record a lot of, and in Skater XL, there's a replay editor, and like you do a cool trick in Skater XL, and then like you can take the camera and keyframe it, and basically record that clip. And there's mods for like the camera, like depth of field, and like you can make things like look really nice, and like all these like lighting and shading mods and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you would record all these videos, and then you can just edit them and put together a little skate video. So that was like something I was doing a lot on Crag Squad was like, and something that kind of like if that stream was known for anything, it was for like my dope Skater XL videos. Yeah, I would like compile tons of footage and like throw it in the
Wow.
timeline and just like kind of cut the videos on stream. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a good like break from the game and a good kind of creative outlet. And also, like, that's what I do is like I'm, a video editor, so it's something I'm very comfortable with doing.
Yeah.
And also kind of talking through the process of that was something that people I think were into as well. So yeah, I definitely have done some. I don't know what kind of video editing I would do on BPT, but I would like to do some stuff like that, or like even like tutorial videos or something
Yeah.
would be kind of interesting. Just like how to do the basics in an After Effects, or like how to import, whatever, or like basic. I know a lot of people use DaVinci Resolve. That's like a huge kind of free program that people love to use.
Mhm.
Um, or even like OBS tutorials. Like I'm not like a pro at OBS, but it was something that was like interesting once I started using it. I was like, oh, these concepts are these workflows are very similar to like post production, and like I know like what an alpha mat is, and like I know what all these types of different video formats are, and like pre-comps and nesting, and like all these like workflow tricks that like are kind of industry standard. Um, it was interesting to see all those in OBS, and that kind of came naturally. So that was
Right.
like something that was kind of exciting to have like a better control over that. I know some people struggle with OBS and like all because it's a lot. It's really complicated. It's really technical. And learning on your own is a lot. So having that kind of technical background was extremely helpful going into streaming like OBS. Like using the actual program was kind of intuitive, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And I was excited to like see what potential that had, how I could use OBS in different ways. And
You touch on something that not a lot of guests have touched on is kind of that ability to really take advantage of the technology that's in front of you. And OBS, for those that don't know it or understand what we're talking about, OBS is one of the options you have to broadcast to Twitch or YouTube or any of those sites, really. But the fact that it exists and there's so many things to learn about it, and learn, like, hearing from you as someone who kind of works in the video editing realm and that industry, the fact that there are a lot of parallels in terms of how that software, uh OBS software, can be used. I think it's really cool that you touch on that and say that there's some neat workflows, there's some cool stuff that you could totally do with it. As someone who uh, has spent some time streaming and has done this for a little while, is there any wisdom you would give to someone who's just kind of getting used to this whole streaming thing, whether it's a OBS thing you wish you knew, or know that, like, a trap that many people fall into and don't really have enough knowledge of?
I think something that a lot of people touch on some of the episodes that I've seen of the show is like you want to start small. You don't want to like jump into it. You want to use the equipment that you've got. You kind of want to see what fits for you and find your footing before you really start to commit.
Right.
Um, like I feel like when I started BricksPlatesTiles, even though I had streamed before, it was like this IRL stream was a whole new realm, and
Yeah.
like dealing with all the variables with that and evolving to kind of like fit my needs and stuff like that. Like I feel like that has just been a natural progression, and like yeah, trying to jump into it head first, like either with equipment or like trying to also like promote like crazy. I feel like you don't want to like over promote. You just kind of want to get some sort of natural growth. Be active in other channels. I feel like channels that are your size are also really important to like kind of be active in and kind of get a vibe of like how they conduct the stream and what the expectations are and stuff like that. So yeah, just like yeah, don't go overboard when you start out. And as far as personality goes, I feel like for me, I just try to keep it pretty natural and organic. Some people go down the kind of persona rate, which is fine. I feel like there's different types of streams for everyone, and like I'm not trying to say that one type of stream is right and wrong, but um, figure out what works for you. And like people can tell when you're putting on an act. Like don't BS a BSer, right? Like
Yeah.
you can tell. So hamming it up and like getting that kind of like, and also as like an editor, I watch a lot of footage, and like I can tell when people are like bad at their acting, or bad actors, or like if they're forcing a line, or if it's like how natural it's sounding or looking or feeling. So like I guess I am a little more hypersensitive to that kind of stuff on stream. um but yeah, just like kind of find your footing. Don't be afraid that like you're not gonna blow up overnight. You have to be patient too. I think
Mhm.
that's a big virtue in starting out, especially brick building, which is still a pretty niche tag, right? Not even
Yeah.
a category, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like having the patience, getting to know people on a personal level, like trying to interact as much as you can with chat, I think is really important, because
Mm.
that starts to bring people back. Trying to relate to them on their level, not trying to like run the stream like a dictator, which I don't really think happens these days. But I I, I I feel like everyone's pretty welcoming, and pretty inclusive in terms of chat and trying to interact with chat. But yeah, I feel like people our age, I feel like have a little more sense going. Not to say that younger streamers are like crazy and reckless and stuff like that, but I feel like eh, we kind of have a little more sense going into it, because the influencers, like the big content creators, big streamers, aren't the people that we looked up to.
Right.
Those weren't like the people that we grew up with and like kind of like inspired us to do this stuff. Like the younger crowd, I feel like maybe looking up to those types of people and feeling they need to like put on a certain persona, or like blow up overnight, or like, just follow the trends to really get traction and stuff like that. I feel like, not to say that we're taking it on like a little more maturely than them, but I feel like having that wisdom of like knowing that it's a slow process, and like, it's something that naturally evolves, that helps the stream, and that kind of helps the mentality out too, because you're not like expecting your stream to blow up and being like, the next like superstar. Like, yeah, just kind of have reasonable expectations of what your stream will be, and you know potentially will be. So
Patience is huge. I completely agree. And I like how you touch on expectation. There's so many examples, right, of these huge streamers or these huge YouTubers who have these massive audiences. Some of them have a persona, or some of them are bombastic in some way, and you do see a lot of emulation in newer and potentially younger creators who are trying to follow that same trajectory or path. When, like you, I believe patience is key. I think a lot of it is, even you need to you need to find yourself, or you need to figure out who you are, especially if you don't really know, right? If you're coming at this within the context of being a creator and as a person, if you know that as a person, you have a leg up going into the creator part, because then you kind of know.
yeah,
But I think that's why some younger people kind of fall into that trap, because I think they don't really have put in the time to understand who they are.
yeah,
And to a lesser degree, when you get on Twitch, or you get on any of these platforms as a creator, you want to have at some point some small understanding of like who you are, or what you want to present as, this streamer, or this video creator. So uh,
yeah.
well put, wonderful point. I think that that advice is absolutely wise. As someone who does this a couple times a week and has been doing this for a while, what continues to motivate you to do this sort of thing?
I think now that like I have some regulars that come in, I'm getting to know a lot of the community a lot better. Like just the chance to interact with everyone is something that is pretty motivating, and like the socialization of it, like having this network of people to kind of talk to and interact with and like be supportive with is pretty motivating in itself. And I feel like sometimes like I stream at night. Sometimes I'm tired and like sometimes I like have a headache or going. We've all kind of felt like that. And going into stream, you may not be feeling like 100%, but then coming out of stream, you're always like kind of bursting because like your spirits have been lifted by these amazing people that come and hang out, and like you're able to just kind of like be yourself and then and like just kind of go with the flow of the conversation. People start to get to know your personalities, and like you start to get their to know like them personally, and like not only like the chat or like the streamer to chatter relationship. I feel like there's also the chatter to chatter relationship where it's like people in the chat, like you said, like we see all these kind of similar faces that we all know, and having the chat carry the conversation on themselves is always really kind of motivating and kind of fun to see. And um yeah, just like having that support, and even if it's just like a couple people, just like I like socializing with people online, and I feel like as a millennial and someone that has grown up with it's messenger and like literally every platform of social messaging and instant messaging and stuff like that, like this is so ingrained into our culture, this type of communication and this type of interaction and these types of relationships, that like it feels it feels good to be part of these communities. And like yeah, it's just it's nice to interact with kind of like-minded AFOLs and whoever. I like uh anyone that comes in the chat. It's fun to get to know and like see where they're from and what they're into. And like it's nice that like because when I first started streaming, I was like, oh, I'm just kind of gonna kind of get like the late night crowd. Like I'm on the West Coast, so people on the East Coast, it's like really late when I'm streaming. So I thought it was just gonna kind of be like this late night crowd of West Coasters and stuff like that. But we're getting UK people and our Netherlands folks and Australia and New Zealand and everywhere. And it's been fun to see the diverse community and just interact with that. And it's been feeling a lot more natural. I feel like when I first started streaming, like, everyone kind of has to find their footing in terms of talking to Chad and being comfortable with that and interacting with Chad. And yeah, I feel like now I've kind of gotten that confidence, and it's nice to yeah just be a part of this community that's been so supportive and like unique in terms of Twitch communities. Like another thing that's pretty interesting that obviously we're doing it right now, but like the concept of co-streaming,
Mhm.
and either like two streamers physically in the same stream, like on like um, I'm bored toys, or he's got like Brenda coming on sometimes, and
Mhm.
a lot of these Prophet, Mrs. Prophet, they have these IRL stream duos, which was like fascinating. I had never seen anything like that before either. Yeah, just these types of new interactions and like using the platform in this new way has been something that's kind of motivating to be a streamer but also be involved with these communities.
There's so many different ways people are exploring this medium, this format, and I too feel very similarly in that just even being a part of the community is amazing, but then also the opportunity to see where they're taking it, where our peers are going with this technology. I think that the I think we've yet to see everything. I mean, that seems obvious, but I feel like there's a lot out there that we have yet to see, and I feel like there's only more as I think the community matures, as the technology continues to get better, we're going to continue to see some interesting things.
Yeah, like I've only been really part of this community for about a year. I've had my other Twitch for like 5 years, and I know Twitch has been around for over 10 years, right? And like
Mhm.
I feel like only recently, and I know these communities have existed before, but uh, for me recently, these new avenues of Twitch are just kind of still opening up and seeing the potential and like the potential of creativity and what people have to offer in terms of content and stuff like that. I think it's still rather new to me, and we're
Mhm.
still trying to navigate like because like you said, brick building doesn't even have a channel, so we're still trying to navigate like what is even to be a brick builder on Twitch
Yeah.
and I feel like there's still tons of possibilities out there for IRL streaming, and I feel like now it's because of kind of the recent surge in kind of interest and stuff like that. Like I feel like it's moving in the right direction, and we're going to start seeing some like I don't know what we're going to be seeing, but I feel like it's moving in the right direction, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. And you're absolutely right. I mean, just even the brick building community on this platform is young. It's
Yeah,
relatively young. Like you noted, Twitch is over 10 years old. IRL streaming hasn't really been a thing until maybe what the last 3 4 years on Twitch
yeah,
alone.
yeah,
To take something as fresh as brick building in our little sub community on Twitch, I think we're in a very interesting time because I feel like it's still growing. It's still a long ways from maturing. I think because not to say that everyone's doing the same thing because that's definitely not true. But I feel like the potential, like you said, to see other styles or to see other approaches to this sort of thing, the potential is high in terms of like all
yeah,
the different things you can do. And
yeah.
I feel like we're just now at the very like beginning of where this can go. I'm excited, and like you, I think it's very motivating and inspiring to kind of see how other people enter this space and what they decide to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too because like there's no other brick building community on Twitch that we don't know about. It's like this is
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
This we are the brick building community, right? Like
yeah.
we've got a couple bigger streamers and like we all know each other and there's not like this hidden brick building community that's like already doing its thing and already kind of like up and running. Like we're kind of us are like the forefront of this community. So seeing all of this progress and evolve kind of firsthand has been really interesting and like satisfying, and being involved with it has been really really rewarding and fun.
Yeah.
Unless there is some like secret brick building community I don't know about on Twitch that have been like killing it for the last 10 years and like we have no idea and like but
I'd feel so out of it if that were the case.
right.
Which is so funny because within the context of this community, within the context of the brick building community, I like to think that I'm fairly plugged into it. I really do.
For sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
every so often something happens and I have no idea what's going on. And so I have to message some of our friends and our peers. I'm like, how did this happen? What is even
Yeah,
going
right.
on?
No, but that's
uh
awesome because just the growth of the community has been, you know, growing like crazy lately, and new people are popping in and out, and people that are, we're chatting are now streaming, and we're starting to see like just everyone's personality coming out through streaming. It's been great.
it's it's a really good time. I feel like it's a really good time. What's and I note this every time it kind of comes up in terms of like the growth of brick building as a community, but still to this day, if I go online and I click the or the tag, not the category, if I click on the tag, I will most always find someone new once a day.
Sure. Yeah.
Generally a couple people. And what's more interesting is when you do, and it's a little harder to do now, but when you type Lego into the search, you can
Mhm.
find channels that have the word Lego in their title.
Sure.
And if I sift through that, occasionally I'll find someone who doesn't even know about the brick building tag. And it's someone who was kind of like I think we did, discovering, oh, this is really fun to not just build Lego because Lego is awesome, but like do it live and talk to other people while doing it on Twitch. And every
Yeah,
so often, I get that experience where someone's like, "Oh, this is really cool. This is really fun. I didn't know this was a thing." Is usually what the person will say, and then occasionally I get the honor or the privilege of saying, "But wait, there's a whole freaking community of us out here getting, doing the same thing and get ready, right?" So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is exciting to see. Like, I mean, because I know a lot of like makers and crafters, and even like IRL streamers will occasionally do a Lego set, like once a
mhm,
year, or like
mhm,
for some special event or something like that. So it's always interesting to see the kind of diverse amount of streamers that do throw some Lego down on stream every once in a while, and then the potential that like this could be a real community, and
yeah.
just seeing the diverse amount of streamers having kind of the similar interests uh, in Lego and streaming. It's been interesting. I
Yeah.
think there is actually a brick building category, and it's for like mason brick, like construction brick building or something like that. It's
Is
really
it?
weird. Yeah, yeah. I feel like we should take it over and like claim it as the brick building
Oh, yeah.
category.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it's like some construction, or like because someone rated into someone with the brick building category. And I was like, what is going on?
Oh,
There's a brick building category. And they're like, yeah, it's like some mason brick building or like some construction brick like category. I
yeah,
don't know. Very strange.
yeah. Is there anyone on Twitch or even just the brick building community in general that you would like to collaborate with?
No, we're doing it right now,
We're
my
doing it right
friend.
now. Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think just like having these opportunities, because like again, like other Twitch communities, I feel like don't interact in this way,
Mhm,
and just having the opportunities to uh, even collaborate on little things like simple graphics, or helping out with like whatever, like on Discord, like simple little you know graphic jobs, or helping someone out with a logo or whatever, like, or even like on the conceptual level, trying to help people with ideas and stuff like that. I think that's been a lot of fun, and like obviously I've seen a lot of support in the community with like stuff that I'm doing with them, and
mhm,
not someone, I don't know if there's anyone in particular. I do like the opportunities to kind of get a diverse like amount, like have the opportunity to help out on kind of various different functions, and kind of interact with the people in those communities. Like
yeah.
the Ukraine raid trade, that was a lot of fun, and like
Oh, yeah.
interacting with that whole crowd, and then like the raid train I worked on with Maple, the human rights raid train,
Mhm,
Raiders for Human Rights. That was interesting too. The all sorts of people interacting in that channel or in that community, and I met tons of new people there. And yeah, just having those opportunities to work with different communities, I feel like has been interesting and inspiring. So
yeah,
yeah, as far as individual people, I feel like I'd be open to working with anyone really.
yeah,
I do like how collaborative, like the co-streaming and stuff like that. That's a really interesting dynamic that comes with the IRL streaming that I haven't really seen before.
yeah,
So opportunities like that are always interesting, and yeah, just I'm always happy to help out, with graphic needs, or anything.
yeah,
People are supportive, really supportive in this community, and it's nice to just give it back and be supportive to people that support you. So that's been fun, just having the opportunity to work with all these types of new people, and getting their ideas on things, and
yeah,
seeing how they approach all this kind of stuff has been a lot of fun.
yeah. I thought it was great. We both were involved in the Ukraine raid train, and it was really cool seeing you put together a lot of the graphics for it, as well as just help we were all pitching in different ways, which is what led me to talking about your graphic design work, is because I got to see it firsthand on the Ukraine raid train. So uh, that's awesome, and
Yeah.
definitely, the whole uh, collaborative piece of this whole thing. What's really fascinating is I'm seeing more and more of it too now on uh, different channels within the community. More people
Hmm.
are crossing the streams in their own
Hmm.
ways, doing their own thing, which is really cool. I love seeing there's a lot of co-building, where
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
building sets together, either on, like you said, kind of the way I'm board toys. Kevin will bring Brenda on, and they'll build together, or remotely as well. Our own AZ Pinoy does that a lot. I've actually done
Totally.
some stuff on
Yeah.
his channel with that. Very cool stuff. A lot of opportunities out there for it, and hope to see you more around on uh, other channels or in the community.
Yeah. Totally. Oh yeah.
Uh, Now that we've kind of gone through this whole process together, I'm going to ask a question that I ask everyone,
Sure.
which is, and this is getting increasingly harder as we do more episodes, but who would you like to see on a future episode of Crossing the Streams?
I feel like you've kind of covered everyone that I like, obviously I love seeing the brick builders on, but I do like when, like, Astra was on last week, right? And that
Yeah.
was awesome, having people that have some focus that isn't primarily Lego,
Hmm.
and kind of seeing what they have to bring to the table, and like how their process is, and obviously what motivates them. And I think that's really interesting to have these other perspectives on streaming besides the brick building perspective.
Hmm.
um like, as far as individual streamers, I don't know, you're putting me on the spot on this one. um,
No answer is also acceptable. It's
yeah,
also okay.
I think I just I like when I like seeing that diversity of people that are, have multifaceted kind of mediums, like, have you had Lone Knife Company on the show?
Not yet. No, I have not.
Something, things like that, I think might would be interesting, to kind of see what motivates streams like that. And they're all
Yeah,
obviously makers, crafters adjacent, and we all
yeah,
know them in the Lego community. But um yeah, kind of just expanding it out to kind of more general non-Lego streams. I feel
yeah,
like there's always potential to have some interesting conversations with that.
yeah.
um
I think that's fantastic. I think that's definitely uh the future of this show definitely lies in continuing to expand across other spaces. Uh will still include, of course, brick building people, but kind of bringing those in that are either brick building or makers and crafting adjacent or involved, and then continuing to expand from there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's like kind of the spirit of at least some of my stream a little bit. Is like, I started focusing on brick building, and then once I kind of like established a bit of community and kind of got to know people in the chat, and I could
Hmm.
start to play some games, or start to like not focus as much on Lego, and kind of expose people to other interests that I have, and get, kind of interact with people that way, and
Yeah.
connect with people on levels outside of Lego, mainly games. But like, um it is nice to kind of step away from that for a second, and kind of, yeah, see how people react, and get people's perspectives on other aspects besides focusing on Lego all the time.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Absolutely. Great. I mean, great thought and suggestion there, and that's definitely where I would love to go with it, is to kind of expand that focus and bring more people in with different interests or interests that overlap with ours. Um, Definitely.
and not to say that, like, exclusively brick building streams aren't great. Obviously that's like what my
Yeah.
stream is.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
and just having, it's nice to kind of go down different routes of conversation with people because you never know like where it's going to go. So I'm not saying not having exclusively brick building streams is not interesting, but it's nice to
I
see.
get you. I get you.
Yeah,
Um, Man, it's been so much fun talking to you, BPT. We've gotten to learn so much about you and your thoughts on the community and on Twitch and content creation. I want to take this time to just thank you for taking
thank
that
you.
time. Yeah, it was incredible. I love what you do. I, hope to continue to see what you do and where you go from here. Was there anything else you wanted to cover before we kind of close down the episode, or anything you wanted to touch upon?
um I don't know. I think we covered a lot this session here,
We
and
did. We did.
um, yeah, yeah. I'm glad we were able to chat, and I think yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think we've covered a decent amount.
Of course. With that, then, as is tradition on the show, I love to just close out the episode with the guest who has any parting words for those that are listening and who got to hear about you, your story, your journey. Any final words you'd like to say to those listening?
Keep doing what you're doing. Like I think a big thing about this is doing what you love and doing what you are good at and what makes you happy. And I think that ultimately can bring some of the best content and some of the best relationships and connections with people is just being yourself and trying to connect with people and relate your personality to others and just I think that's something that's been a great learning experience from being part of this community is just being able to relate to people on a personal level. And yeah, everyone's super supportive. It's been really great, and I'm super thankful to be part of it.